Second. All right. Thank you so much, Daniel, for joining me today. And I want to tell you thank you for your service.
And
For
thank you as well.
Yes, you're welcome. Again, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself, and then we can just start our conversations. We're looking at Veterans Day ahead next week and wanted to recognize our veterans and give some insight into that life so that veterans can get the kind of support that they need in the community.
Yeah,
So thank you.
absolutely. Absolutely. My name is Daniel Cornier from Orlando, Florida. I was in the United States Marine Corps from 2007 to about 2015. And my time in the Marine Corps, I was a military police officer. And a bit more specifically, I was a canine police officer. So I had a dog partner with me the entire time.
I always find that interesting. That's a whole different life. Did you
It
enjoy
is.
that?
I had an absolute blast. It was amazing. I had an amazing time.
I won't talk about any kind of movies or anything like that. That I'll save that for another time.
There's a ton of them out there now.
So, what about your service period? How long? Where did you serve?
Yeah. So in 2007, I joined the Marine Corps. I went to boot camp, and as we know, Marine Corps boot camp is pretty tough. I got out of boot camp and I went to Marine Corps combat training, and
Okay.
that was about I can't remember 3 to 4 weeks, I believe. After that, I went to Military Police Academy. Graduated well halfway through the Military Police Academy. They asked, "Does anybody want to go canine?" And I had no idea the Marine Corps had canine
I
even
didn't
as an
either.
option. So as soon as I heard canine, I was like, "Really, canine with dogs? Absolutely, I'll do it." So they put you through the ringer and a bunch of tests and exams and different things like that. And I just, I made it. So after Military Police Academy, I went to the Military Working Dog School and I went through a couple schools there. And in 2008, I went to my first duty station in San Diego, California. I spent a little bit over 4 years there. I did 2 deployments to Afghanistan out of San Diego, California. I got back and I decided I wasn't done with the Marine Corps yet. I wanted to experience the other side, is what we call garrison side. Garrison is more, police badges and cop cars and police stuff. So I went to
Mhm.
Yuma, Arizona as a military police officer, as a sergeant. And I was a trainer there for a little while and I worked the road and I kind of tried to get all the aspects of the garrison side there. I finished up in Yuma in 2015 and I got out and I transferred my skills over to the civilian side.
Huh. What do you mean?
Well, when I got out in 2015, I was looking around to find out, how can I transfer my skills to the civilian world? I was looking to be a cop. So I'm looking around to be a cop and finally I get an academy date and everything's lined up. And I see a posting for an instructor trainer at one of the nation's largest canine law enforcement facilities. So I put in
Wow.
an application and a week later I get a phone call. Um, they want an interview. So I did the interview and I got hired on the spot. And I was an instructor. Actually, I was a trainer for about a year. I became an instructor for about 2.5 years. And the last 2.5 years I was there, I was actually the director of training for the facility there.
Oh, wow. And that was in the civilian sector?
Yep, that was in the civilian sector here in Orlando, well, in Central Florida.
Hmm.
Yep.
You know, I think so. I was on McGuire Air Force Base for a while, and I became aware that we had I don't know if it was an academy or a training facility, but we had dogs.
Okay.
And so we got an opportunity to visit, that area and, speak to a few people. But I really did not know that the Marines
Yeah.
had dogs.
Yeah, we do. Actually, every branch of service has. Coast Guard has it. Marine Corps, Army, Air Force, they all have it. Actually, the Air Force runs the entire program DoD wide. Um,
Okay.
but what they're doing now is they're starting to back down a little bit, and they're getting rid of the Marine Corps dogs and some of the more deployment stuff, and they're heading more towards like a special operations role.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that was toward the tail end of my career, but now it's some of the operations starting to take into effect, and they're downsizing some of the canine programs.
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you for that. And what about your experiences in the military? Can you share any about what that has meant, the impact, anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the experience that, well, both of the experiences that stood out to me the most were my deployments to Afghanistan. First and foremost, I must say, as nervous as I was, mainly because I had never been, I didn't know what to expect. I had a very, very good time, and I know that sounds weird or awkward to most people having a good time overseas, but we spent a lot of time training, a lot of time getting comfortable with our gear and our dogs, and the mindset that you have to have when you go over there. And mindset's a huge thing, and it kind of gets you ready to experience some of the things that you're going to experience. But my experiences overseas were, again, I had a great time. I had a great time. They prepare us so much to see different things and do different things and you know to put yourself in certain mindsets, and it really, when things start to happen, it almost feels like training. So you don't get that shock of, oh my goodness, this is really
Right.
happening to me, or this is going on. It almost feels like, okay, muscle memory, this is what I have to do, I've been trained for this, do my job and move forward.
Wow. Wow. And in those deployments, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced?
Yeah. And some of the more obvious ones is, being away from family and different things like that.
Hmm.
But some of the challenges that a lot of people don't expect are just, the things that you take for granted every day, being able to pick up your phone and, make a phone call, or, especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere, having a comfortable bed to sleep in, or, different things like that, are in your mind, but they don't really take effect until you are there. And you're like, wow, these
Hmm.
things that you take for granted back home, that's they're really special to you, you know.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
think just some of the little things, maybe some the bigger things, yeah, you think about them, but you don't think about the little things, and just picking up your cell phone or going to sleep and feeling comfortable at night, or different things like that, hot meal, things like that. Those things really start to weigh on you after a little while.
Yeah. As a dog handler, though, you go into some pretty dangerous situations. Um, uh, uh, is there any way you can help us understand that, or how you
Yeah.
felt, or?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So both of my deployments, I was fortunate enough to handle an explosive dog. So our dogs are trained to detect the odor of explosives. So with that being said, I'm coming from the military yourself, you know how much of a threat the improvised explosive devices are.
Hmm.
Those were big killer of service members overseas for
Yeah.
still today to this day. So my job was to be in front of the front lines.
Hmm.
A lot of what we did is we were attached to a lot of special forces teams, so we did a lot of reconning, and we were the advanced team to kind of clear the way for infantry units, or different motorized units and things like that. So some of the things we got to experience was the untouched parts of Afghanistan. And we're out front, and so we're leading the way.
Right.
So some of the things that we experienced as a small team, we didn't have the comfort, and we didn't. I guess you can say we didn't have the comfort of being in a big unit. So some of the things that happened to us were magnified by being in such a small unit.
Right. 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 Hmm. And what about your family? How did that impact your family? Again, understanding the dangers that you face.
Yeah, my first deployment was pretty high tempo. I didn't get to spend a lot of time on the phone. I was go go go, and every couple weeks I was with a new unit. So I guess it was a little easier on my family, my first deployment, because I didn't have to. I don't say I have to. I didn't get the opportunity to share as much. Um,
Okay.
they knew that I was on the front line. They knew that I was working an explosive dog, and they knew the danger of things. But I didn't get to communicate very often back home. So, some of the stressors and different things it puts on the family, for me, it maybe felt a little bit easier, but I guess for the family not knowing, it
Hmm.
might have been a little difficult on them. But it's definitely a huge stressor, especially, when you have a wife and kids, or, you're close to some of your other family members. It really, really puts a lot of stressors on them.
Hmm. That's a great point that you brought up, that you not being able to share
Hmm.
was a little bit easier on you. Sometimes I agree it's difficult for someone to understand that. But my understanding of that is it's easier because you don't have to focus on and access and pull apart the stress of what you're actually in. You can
Mhm.
just package it and keep going.
Yeah, like I said before, it's you kind of almost putting into that training realm. You feel like, okay, I'm going out training. I'll be fine when I get back home, and everything's gonna be good. So you kind of pack,
Mhm.
like you said, pack
Mhm.
that away into a certain mindset.
Mhm. Mhm. And how did you handle missing events and milestones and things like that in your family's life?
Growing up, we always had big holidays and celebrations and things like that. And as you get older as a young man, you kind of, I don't want to say it gets a little boring, those things. But I mean, I'm sure you have kids or understand what
Yeah.
young men are like as they grow up, and the
Yes.
holidays get a little, I guess, boring for them. But you know what? What the thing for me is that when I was in that stage, I joined the Marine Corps, and when holidays and birthdays and special celebrations did come up, you start to miss them a little bit more, and you really start, you know, not take them for granted as much. So,
Mm.
now that I'm out of the Marine Corps and those things are past me and I'm home every day now, um, you know, I, I I'll be the first to admit, hey, we put the Christmas stuff up yesterday, and I love
That's awesome.
and I love big celebrations and having family over, and it's a great time.
Wow.
So those things are a lot more special to me these days because I missed them. Those 8 or 9 years that I was away.
So can you speak to just speak to the general population, the military member, the retired member, about valuing family time, those kinds of things? Do you have anything that you can say to
Yeah.
them?
Don't take anything for granted. And cherish every moment. We're we're not guaranteed every day. So, and I know it sounds very cliche and it sounds like I read it from a quote, but live every day as if it was your last. And
Mm.
I seem to kind of adopt that more and more as I get older. But definitely, when I was in danger and doing different things overseas, I kind of lived life quickly and fast, and this and that, and I didn't slow down and take things for what they really are. But today, these days, I live and die by that. Live day to day, live in the moment as much as you can, and cherish those little special times and people in your life for sure.
Right, right. So what kept you going while you were there?
Oh, um, and I've been trying to answer that before, and that's a question that I really struggle with because there was a lot of different things that kept me going. One of the things that obviously kept me going was, hey, I want to make it home safe to my loved ones. But ironically enough, one of the things that kept me going was that, hey, I'm making a difference. I'm making a future. I'm molding myself. I'm putting myself through this now to mold myself for the future to better set me up later in life. And
Mm.
that was definitely one of the things the military taught me was, true grit and grind. And that what that's what I believe that really separates veterans, and not to take it away from any civilians, but veterans and civilians is that
Mhm.
the certain jobs and certain situations in the Marine Corps and the military in general, they really teach you grit and grind and how to get through your daily, grind of things.
Mhm. Wow. That seems to go along with what you said. Live in the moment. Don't take anything for granted
Hmm.
because you never know what's going to happen. And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're over in Afghanistan or you're just living your life every day in the civilian world. That sounds like really good advice.
Hmm.
Just for people in general.
Hmm.
Some of those challenges and experiences you mentioned that it prepared you
Yeah.
for your life now.
Yeah.
But sometimes in the military, especially like you're saying, when you're ripping and running and just doing your job, you don't really think about it. And especially if you're having not such good times or
Hmm.
you have some negative experience,
Hmm.
you don't realize that those things that's happening to you is actually growing you, developing you, broadening your ability, expanding you as a person, so that in the future you're able to apply those things. Do you find that that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, there's a point when you're in the military and you're ripping and rolling and grinding and doing all these things, and then you get out of the Marine Corps, and there's this 2 to 3 period of this numbness, and you're not sure how to navigate your way through that numbness. So you start dealing with things like, okay, this is no longer my pace. But is it no longer my pace because I'm getting older and I'm changing and I'm losing my steam? Or do I change gears and switch chapters in my life and try to apply those things that I've learned in the civilian world? So I think the first 2 to 3 years, and sometimes even 4 years getting out of the military, are the toughest years for veterans. But if I can give any advice to anyone, and again, I'm no guru and I'm no, specialist at this, but this is just from what my personal experiences are, is take time to figure out who you want to be after this transitional period. And it's okay to work on yourself. It's okay to have a 2 to 3, 4 year period of this moment of figuring how to transition. Another point that I wanted to bring up is that on the civilian side, there's a couple things that I feel like that are lacking, is that, people tend to not maybe understand or really know what it is to look out for your brothers and sisters to your left. And it's a very me society. And I feel like a lot of people forget, or maybe just don't quite understand or never experienced what it is to actually have to look out for your brothers and sisters to your left and right. And by doing that, that's going to motivate you to move forward, and everybody moves together online together. So, there's a lot of different factors, but those are the things that's kind of helped me through this 3 to 4 year period that, to adjust.
So, what would you suggest around that specific topic about not being the me society?
Yeah. Great question. Very good question. I mean, that's a complex question, and it deserves a complex answer.
Yeah.
But again, I believe that, just there's a way of thinking out there, is that people care for you, right? Oh, I care for you, I care for this. But it's hard to find someone on this side of things, as someone that genuinely cares or genuinely knows who you are, because the people that you work with on a daily basis in the military, they see you every day and they know what you've gone through, and it's easy to be transparent in the military work, because we're all the same. We're all the same. Red, orange, black, purple, tall, woman, whatever. We're all the same people, all wear the same uniform. So there's no entitlement to feel like you're a different person or you want to stand out. Everybody's in the same level, so we share our lives together, And I think here on this civilian world is that we get in this little bubble of maybe insecurity, and you don't really want to share who you are and what's going on inside of you. So that kind of makes you separate yourself into this me world, and everybody starts competing. Well, it's not a competition. Look out for your brothers and your left and right, and we'll all move together,
So it sounds to me like, from what you're describing, first of all, you're valuing that person.
Absolutely.
And secondly, you take the responsibility for the person on your right and left.
Absolutely. And you would expect the same out of them. So then you feel a bit more comfortable about sharing different difficulties and different things you have in your life that are going on,
Yeah. Because when something is going on, it's your responsibility, okay, if something's going on with your brother or your sister in the fight, you see it as your responsibility to get in there and help this situation, help that person.
Absolutely, because you're only as strong as your weakest person, and if that's your weakest link, then that's realistically your weakest link. So it's your duty, it's your responsibility to help that person, or see what they need or see what's going on with them, and genuinely care as if it was your own problems.
Right. So it's not even just that person. By doing that, you are taking, responsibility for the safety of the overall mission at the end of the day.
Absolutely, because there's an overall goal, it's an overall mission that you have to achieve as a team. So that kind of helps, also helps with the team environment and looking out left and right.
Right. Wow, that's a blessing. It is a culture. It's a very unique environment. It's
Absolutely.
a unique, experience. There is, I don't think that there's anywhere else. I know that there are other organization like you have the police department, you have the fire department, you
Hmm.
have those, and they have similar culture, but the military culture in itself is very unique.
Hmm.
And you mentioned all the things that you did after you weren't finished with the military. So
Yeah.
what did you do after that?
After the military,
Yeah.
like I said, I started working on the private sector. I worked for one of the largest canine law enforcement facilities in the nation. I worked my way up to director of training there. I ended up getting a degree in business while I was there. And again, it was another transitional period for me. I felt like at the time that it was time for me to move on. I spread my knowledge, and I want to see if I can
Right.
flourish in a different environment. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently working for a tech company right now, which is a huge,
Okay.
huge change. Um,
Okay.
because law enforcement, those guys, like you mentioned before, they have some of the same values as military. So it was an easy transition for me because I felt like I went from military to law enforcement, and I was able to kind of bond and kind of share some of my experiences with those guys. And there's a lot of veterans in the law enforcement community as well.
Yes.
So as I made my transition to the tech world, which is unique, very unique and different, and the
Yeah.
people there are very unique and different. And that's when I really started to realize that some of the values and some of the core beliefs that I learned in the Marine Corps are very, very different in the normal way of living of things. So
Mm.
as I move throughout the tech company that I'm working for now, I try to, and I hate to use the word instill because that's not going to happen, but I try to share some of my beliefs and lead from the front um,
Mm-hmm.
with some of my coworkers and kind of show them what some of the values that helped me shape my life and help them maybe guide them in the right direction to
Mm-hmm.
adopting some of those beliefs and strengths.
Do you find it? I'm sure if you were to compare working for law enforcement and the tech world, when you start trying to share knowledge and lead from the front, um, I wonder, have you noticed that it was more receptive on the law enforcement side?
Absolutely,
And
absolutely, because that seems to be the general consensus is that
right,
your superiors, you show respect, and they know from experience, so follow their lead.
right,
On
right.
the opposite end of the spectrum in the tech world, it's almost maybe you know who is this guy? Where is he from? He's just starting here in this industry. What is he?
Right.
Really, I'm not the type of person to shove somebody away and say, hey, look at me, look at me. I'm just trying to help, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
where maybe some of these people lack, I'm trying to fill in those gaps, and bring everybody up on the same playing field.
It's a tricky undertaking,
It
would
is.
you say?
It is.
Because you run the risk of alienating people, of people seeing you a different way, totally different than what your intentions are.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
you, you kind of have to navigate the waters there a bit with
Oh,
that.
yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Definitely.
Well, as I said, this ministry, faith, a word with the Lord ministry, is a faith-based
Hmm.
ministry, and for us, just keeping people in prayer, supporting them in that way. There are a lot of people of faith, and in the when they come back home and they're going to church and they're doing all of that, faith leaders and pastors sometimes don't understand the world that they come from,
Yeah.
and therefore they don't understand the needs that they have. So I appreciate you taking the time
Absolutely.
to coming on. And my prayer is that you continue to thrive and excel and keep sharing that knowledge,
And same for you. Same for you.
Here, let me ask you this question. I know we got to go, but are you familiar with Civil Air Patrol at all?
Civil Air Patrol? I am not.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I'm just looking at the resource that you are. Civil Air Patrol is an auxiliary of the Air Force.
Hmm.
And it's an organization, it's a volunteer organization. It's a nationally recognized organization
Hmm.
that we have cadets. we do aerospace education. We do a lot of leadership training. We have our own core values. I serve as chaplain for CAP, and my husband is actually one of the squadron commanders. And so I'm just thinking about that. That would be a great place. Not that I'm trying to give you work to
No,
do,
no.
but but I can offline. I can send you some information. Perhaps there's a local squadron that you may find an opportunity to continue to share that knowledge.
Yeah,
I love what you've said. I love your energy. I love your willingness to invest in others and know the value of doing that for development and even for the future. And
yeah,
so maybe that's another
yeah, absolutely,
way.
absolutely. You know,
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
you know, I grew up as a different kid. I wasn't always the best. And as I grew older and I kind of saw my path heading down the wrong way, I joined the military as like almost a last ditch effort to see if hey, maybe this might be a change. And from the person that I went in to the person that I am today and got out later, it's completely night and day. And I just try to focus on some of the things that made me realize the difference and the change and motivated me to be a certain, I don't want to say better person because it's all perspective, but to be the person that I am today. I try to focus on those things and spread that knowledge to different people to maybe that might help them,
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
in a meaningful way.
yes. Okay, well, I'll be in touch. And I thank you so much again for your service and for coming on and for just being transparent and sharing your knowledge and experience to help
Absolutely.
others. Thank you
Well, thank
very
you for
much.
the call.
You're welcome.
All right,
Okay,
bye
bye
bye.
bye.